Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun unexpected video for you guys today, because I am playing Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise, but I am not playing it on an Xbox 360. I'm actually playing the recent recompilation by Solar Cookies using RexGlue. If that doesn't sound familiar, I've done a few videos on what RexGlue is as a concept, and I will leave them in a link in the description below. That way you can better understand exactly what it's doing, because it is a static recompilation of the code from the PowerPC architecture of the 360 to a modern x86 processor. But it's also using Xenia underpinning some of the graphics and audio as well. So it's kind of a hybrid approach to statically recompile games to PC. But because it is Viva Pinata, I am absolutely excited because I've always loved this game. And I will say right now, back in the day when I purchased this, Mrs. Esoterica absolutely lost like 2 weeks to the game every spare minute of time. And honestly, it was so long ago, she wasn't Mrs. Esoterica, she was Mrs. Video Game Girlfriend, for lack of a better term. That's how long this game has been out for, and how much I remember it nostalgia-wise from back in the day. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, RexGlue is definitely showing some promise, and even though I didn't get very far into Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise because the game is all-consuming and takes forever, what I see right now definitely is running pretty well. There definitely are still some hitches, and there's going to be a couple caching things going on where you'll see the game kind of hitch and then actually start again, but it's only for a frame or two. And as far as this is concerned, the one nice thing about this recomp compared to the other RexGlue recomps out there, you don't actually have to build this from the GitHub repo. There is a compiled version on GitHub that you just add your own legally owned ISO to the mix, and that's definitely going to help a lot of people actually enjoy these, because the other RexGlue recomps out there, which kind of range from getting to the menu to getting in-game with graphical corruption, you have to build those from scratch from the Git code, and that definitely stumps about 99 out of 100 people in my opinion. But honestly, stuff like this, at least in part, is why retro gaming is making a comeback. And if you're wondering, yes, I consider at least part of the Xbox 360 as being retro gaming, but you guys can definitely debate that down in the comments below. So if you follow the link, you're going to see everything going on here. And for those of you that care, even though honestly for code recompilation, I personally don't, it is a completely removed from AI process. It is all done by human hands. You'll get an actual setup guide here as well. And again, this is going to be very easy to actually get running, which makes a huge difference. Because again, I've talked about some of the other RexGlue recomps on the channel, and I will say getting them to build requires a lot of dependencies in your actual system, and a lot of times, I'd say like 9 out of 10 times even I try to build them, there's at least one issue, if not more, off the first and even second build. And I'm somebody who definitely spends a lot of time doing this stuff. When I get stumped, I send it over to Andy D, who helps me with some captures as well, and definitely has a different workflow being on a Linux system, and he's yet to actually get one to compile perfectly either. But RexGlue definitely is interesting in kind of its hybrid approach of actually recompiling the PowerPC code over to C++ that you can run on native platforms. If that doesn't make any sense to you, I'll just say it this way. PowerPC was an architecture very popular in the 360 and the PlayStation 3, as well as some arcade boards, and most famously from the Power Mac G3, G4, and G5 generation of computers. And it uses an instruction set and a code base that does not just generally translate over to something like an x86 processor or even ARM at this point in time, which is getting more popular. So they're recompiling that actual code from PowerPC over to something that a modern system can actually read, which is different than software emulation and can lead to better performance, lower overhead, and more efficiencies. But again, as far as the graphics and audio you're seeing here, at least in part, they are being underpinned by Xenia. So if Xenia doesn't emulate a game well, you're not really going to be able to use RexGlue to recompile it, because you will still have the underlying issues that exist in Xenia coming over. Although it's one of those things, Xenia is always improving, so this definitely seems like a good route to take for the future, and I'm sure people will start working on recompilers for the graphics and audio end as well, kind of transposing all of the calls over to modern hardware without having to worry about emulation. Let's do the first of 2 soundtrack samples, because the game has amazing music, sound effects, and you can hear what it sounds like, and I'll be right back with a lot more 360 recomp news for everyone.
You are doing very well.
I mean, honestly, it's just such a fun, relaxing soundtrack, and it is so nostalgic for me. Now, moving over to the actual developer's footage here, I will leave a link in the description below. They just get further into the game. You can see all of the different actual windows you can open up and kind of pivot around with the gameplay and settings. And again, it's one of those things. I just have so much nostalgia for this game. I had basically just moved in with my wife at that point in time. We had been dating for maybe about like 8 months or so, and we played this game basically from the time she would get up to the time she would fall asleep. I'd bring food to the couch. And that is very unlike my wife. She's definitely someone who's not going to invest that much time into a game unless it is called Animal Crossing, but Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise hit the exact same way. So seeing this run again, if I sat her down tonight at my computer, plugged in the HDMI cord over to my OLED TV and gave her a controller, I think I would probably lose her for another week or two. Well, there was the big hemlock incident which basically wiped out all of her pinatas, and she never went back to the game after that because basically her entire farm got completely wiped out. It's still a joke we make. Anytime something goes really wrong, we just say it's the hemlock. But as we go through the recomp here, as I definitely got on a nostalgic zag there, again, everything seems to be working relatively well, but there are so many different components to Viva Pinata, so many different items, so many different variables. It's one of those things. This could take months of testing to find out if there are any problems in the actual recomp, because it definitely is a very complex game with a lot of different systems underpinning both the gameplay as well as the code, obviously. But going back to my experience here with the recomp again, I kind of forgot at a certain moment in time that I wasn't just playing this on an Xbox 360, because it did work relatively well even if I had forgotten exactly what I was supposed to be doing in the game. And as we kind of take a look at the graphics here, everything seems to be working pretty well. Like I said, every once in a while there's going to be a hitch, and I think that's just the shaders compiling. But otherwise, as far as RexGlue based recomps are concerned, this one definitely is leading the pack when it comes to performance. And just so you know, that is not a knock on the other Xbox 360 RexGlue games out there, because sometimes people hear it that way. Every single recomp is going to run its own race, and as far as my experience is concerned, it just seems like Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise is leading that. Because again, I've had some issues getting any of the other RexGlue games to actually build and run, and I do appreciate that the dev here actually put up that pre-compiled version, because I think they realized that it really does take a lot of effort to get these things to build, especially if you have none of the tool chain actually set up. So see here, Solar Cookies goes over the entire launcher, explains how to use it, so if you just pay attention to the directions, you will be perfectly fine. But you have to have a pretty decent system for this to actually run at any decent frame rate, because I had one of the people that helps me, Kilter Music, try this one, and his system just wasn't up to the task of actually being able to capture any footage on his end. And just so you know, as a frame of reference, I have an i9-12900K overclocked on water to 5.4 GHz. I've got an NVIDIA 3080 Ti as well as 64 GB of DDR5 RAM, so I've definitely have some overhead to spare, but this is not something you're going to be able to throw a complete potato at. You need to have a decent system. Probably not up to the spec I do, but you can't basically show up with a 10-year-old computer and expect things to be perfect. But one more soundtrack sample, because I will say the audio in this is a 10 out of 10, and I'll be right back.
Press down on...
I mean, everything's just so peaceful in Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise until the hemlock starts showing up, and then everything starts dying off, and you realize that everything is going to hell in a handbasket, and you're wondering how these cute pinata animals end up dead on your farm. I know it sounds a little bit grim, but that is part of the game. But honestly, Trouble in Paradise has always been one of the most charming and colorful games on the Xbox 360. I have a ton of fun memories with it as far as my wife and I are concerned, and it's one of those things I love seeing more decomps, recomps, and PC ports, because you know I love some big decomp energy, even if this isn't a decomp whatsoever. It is just the name of the playlist. So if you want to check this one out, I did leave a link in the description below. Again, remember, it is a first draft. Don't expect perfection and you won't be disappointed. And as far as whether or not the game can be quote-unquote beaten, even though it doesn't have a real end stage condition, I have no idea. The game is massive and just have to find out. But short of that, we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.